Their story is neither a uniquely American story or separately a Canadian story, but one that forever unites the two countries and people. It is a story of desperation and resistance, of courage and survival, of men and women who risked their own lives in order to claim the life that they, and they alone, owned. Communication among these settlers was common and considerable, with much travel from one location to another undertaken not only by residents, but by interested visitors. The existence of a network of Canadian communities of escaped slaves and refugee free people of color was, of course, known in the United States. Newspapers reported about them. Abolitionist leaders referred to them. They did not all exist simultaneously during the half-century before the Civil War, but large, small, separate, or part of existing towns and cities, they were familiar destinations to all the well-known figures, black and white, whose public positions against slavery inspired many. Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, John Brown, and Harriet Beecher Stowe all knew about, experienced, and wrote about Dawn, Wilberforce, Chatham, and the other places whose stories are told here. Also, and very importantly, lesser known to most Americans, but effective activists contributed to the founding and organization of the Promised Lands in Canada, where black people at last were able to direct their lives. There they practiced agriculture, established and expanded schools, factories, businesses, and places of worship, created civic structures, and published newspapers to keep themselves informed. They argued over whether to become totally self-sufficient or to accept help, but overall they wanted to live as free people and be judged accordingly. The histories of these Canadian settlements, like the lives of their residents, overlap, but each was unique in origin, organizing principle, and progress, a story in itself. Their individual successes and failures have been up to now absent from American histories, and until recently from Canadian histories as well. From Midnight to Dawn sets them out here, stories from the 19th century shedding light on the 21st. Introduction. Freedom's New Direction. In the 85 years between the American Revolution and the Civil War, not only the North and South of the United States, but all of North America struggled with the issue of slavery. The Declaration of Independence had set a standard. All men are created equal, and the colonies had responded passionately to this promise of a new egalitarian society. Yet there remained over 500,000 enslaved Africans toiling on American lands. In addition, living throughout the country were 25,000 free blacks, men and women of African descent who were born free or who had served, earned, purchased, or escaped their way to freedom. The pervasive spirit of liberty and independence was not lost on them. Crispus Attucks, a runaway slave, was the first man to die in the struggle for American independence, though Paul Revere's famous engraving showed him as white. But the British, in need of manpower, had held out counter-offers. In 1775, Lord Dunmore, the royal governor of Virginia, issued a proclamation stating that slaves who sided with the British would be granted their freedom after the war. Within 1 month, more than 300 enslaved black men had responded to Dunmore's call, the first mass emancipation of slaves in American history. These black loyalists, as they were called, wore uniforms emblazoned with the slogan, "Liberty to Slaves," which became not just a black, but also a British rallying cry, though the British based their offer solely on the need for manpower, not on any abolitionist beliefs. Because Lord Dunmore's call had been such a successful tactic, the British found themselves committed to the concept of freeing slaves owned by the rebellious Americans, who were called patriots as opposed to loyalists. This economic tactic, used in conjunction with military tactics, worked. No one knows exactly how many slaves fled to safety behind British military lines after